Hi, everybody. I'm JP Karliak. I'm the founder of QueerVox, which is a online academy and community for LGBTQIA plus voice actors. We're so excited to once again partner with our friends at the Help Network to bring an amazing panel for you tonight. I am so pleased to welcome my commercial agent, the incredible Ferenc Laczko. Hi, Ferenc.
Hi, I'm thrilled to be here. I would just really like to thank AP and QueerVox for all the great things that they do, and the Help Network. I'm also just thankful that you guys are all here too to listen and to learn. And we're gonna get to your questions and just talk about all the things voiceover. So I'm excited. And yeah, let's do it.
Let's do the thing. So yeah, as Ferenc mentioned, we are going to get to your questions. So if you want to throw them in the little Q&A box down at the bottom, do not put them in the chat. You're welcome to chat in the chat, but you know, it's much easier for us if we just see everything in the Q&A. And we will get to those soon. But first, we're going to have a little conversation. So Ferenc, let's start with the basics. How'd you get into this thing?
Great question. So, I think as most people, I had no idea what an agent was or a manager or any, that this profession even existed when I was growing up. But I always sort of had like a inkling about the entertainment industry. I just naturally kind of gravitated towards it. And so when I was in college, I had the fortune of interning at Fox 2000, which was a production company that did The Devil Wears Prada, one of my favorite all-time movies, and Walk the Line, and Marley and Me, one of the saddest movies. Yes, and it was an amazing experience. And so I was like, this is magical. How do I be part of this industry? And I just had to find my way in. And so of course, I graduated during one of the recessions. This was like in 2008 now. And so there weren't many jobs. There was a writer's strike going on. So it wasn't a plentiful, job market per se. So I, applied, and finally made it into the mailroom at Abrams Artists Agency. So I started there. Literally delivering mail, which was such a good use of my expensive college degree that my parents love to remind me about all the time. So I was in the mailroom, and one of the amazing things about working in a mailroom at a talent agency is you get to see kind of the cross sections of the different avenues. So there was obviously theatrical, there was commercials, there was voiceover, there was all sorts of kids, youth commercial, just all different cross sections. And so as I was sort of making my way through the different rounds, again, I just felt this like kind of gravitation towards voiceover, because the talent were coming into the offices, the very process of being a voiceover agent, where we get the copy, or we get the scripts, or we get the projects from the casting directors or the producers, and we get to kind of act and put on, I'm not going to dare say act as a casting director, because that is its own profession, and that is, they deserve mad respect. But we did sort of have a hand in that, and that really excited me. And the fact that we could direct talent and they were coming in, it was just very dynamic. And so, and also that voiceover wasn't just one avenue. It wasn't just like TV. It was video games. It was animation. It was audiobooks. It was commercials. It was, basically wherever you hear a voice. So inside my head, it was just really exciting. And so I elected to work as a voiceover receptionist. And so the journey started there. And I was there for probably about a year. And then, boss left and went to another agency, and I went over there. And that's where I became an agent, a voiceover agent at one of those agencies. And then I made a move to a celebrity boutique agency called Independent Artist Agency. And that was celebrity, mostly celebrity agency. They did have an on-camera commercial, but they represented Eva Longoria and Josh Duhamel and Kaylee Cuoco and, you know, major people like that. And so I worked there for a bit, and then I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to represent and work at SBV. And I've been here, I just celebrated my 8th year. So I'm going on year 9. So it's been an incredible journey, and I'm very thankful for all the people, because it takes a village. It's not, you know, it's not just a happy accident. It takes a village. So I'm thankful for everyone that's helped me get to where I am today.
For sure. I mean, we QueerVox concluded our core class last night, and the words that we leave everybody is like, you know, make sure you stay in touch with all of the people around you, because it's the community that helps to build your career. Like, these are the people that will support you and champion you, and sometimes even say, oh, I can't do this gig, but they can. So yeah, I mean, very true. It is a sum collective of the people that get us to this place. So you found yourself mostly, not entirely, but you mostly deal with commercial work. What would you say is the most challenging part of working as a commercial agent?
That is a great question, because there are many challenges. But I think time is the biggest challenge. You know, the deadlines that, you know, have become the norm because of the pandemic. And I know we're going to talk about pandemic stuff a little bit more, but, you know, the deadlines are very quick. You know, it moves so quickly. There is a definite rhythm to this work. And so you really have to be sort of a participant. You have to be on the saddle. You have to be a player in that game. You have to know that you could be getting an audition at 11 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's going to be due at like 4 o'clock that day. It's going to move very quickly, and not just like, you know, one-off little things. These could be major campaigns, major opportunities. So time is definitely, you know, one of the biggest elements of what makes this job challenging. I will say the other, you know, close number 2 right there is probably the lack of feedback. That, you know, and I'm sure you know, everyone's like, yeah, because
what feedback?
no feedback over. There is none. The feedback is you get put on a veil, you get a call back, you are brought back in, you know, some sort of like tethering of that nature. Otherwise, you know, you're pretty much, there is no feedback in voiceover. And so it can feel like you're in this like silo of just like, are they even listening to anything that I'm doing? You know, so that's the other sort of challenge there, that like, you don't really know if you're hitting the bullseye. You don't know if you're like the second runner up for like the voice of, you know, insert major car company. You know, you could be that person, but you would never know. They could never tell you. You would never know. And so that's a very sort of, you know, frustrating process. But at the same time, you also need to trust the process. And, you know, and just, if you're doing good work, you have to know that it's being heard. The cream, you know, I always like to say, you know, like the cream rises to the top. It truly does. So those are
sure.
I could probably talk about many others.
Well, you brought up the pandemic, and I'm glad you did. So yes, I mean, the pandemic changed a lot of people's careers, and it definitely shifted the way that we do voiceover. So could you talk a little bit about not only the changes that have come out of the pandemic, but as we shift into our endemic phase, what changes that have happened so far do you see going away, and what do you see persisting or morphing into something else?
So, you know, the pandemic was a very sort of, you know, obviously, I don't need to preach to the choir, you know, it was a crazy period of time. And, you know, it did it in the beginning. It was sort of like nobody really knew what was going to happen. But voiceover and this community is just, it's very ingenious, and we are smart people. I will say that, and we figure it out. We are, our industry, our community is one of people that are proactive and want to make it work and figure out solutions. So what happened in the voiceover industry is that basically everyone had to get a home studio with Source Connect. That's pretty much, or had to get some sort of broadcast quality home studio situation, because most studios weren't open, and a lot of the advertisers were not willing at the time to even book a studio because of liability reasons. Like, there were lawyers involved, and so it made, and this sort of at-home recording situation where everyone became their own engineers sort of started with the promo world, because promo world and promo trailer world, a lot of those artists already have a home studio with Source Connect and, ISDN back in the day, and, and they already had those sort of ability to record. What the pandemic did was just basically like create this whole network of voice actors and actors with studios at home that were broadcast quality. And so that was really great that so many people were able to jump on that and create that sort of network so that, commercial production could still continue during the pandemic. That's when you saw, and I'm sure you guys all, I don't know if you watched Saturday Night Live, we all saw those like parody skits where it was like, during these difficult times and during these times of transition and, in these difficult, hard times, we all heard those like spots and we're like, stop it. It was just like, it was just too much. And then they kind of switched to something else. But basically what that did is it created a network of voice actors with home studios, but then it also created this like competition amongst, you're basically competing against all the marketplaces now, because everybody has a home studio with Source Connect. I mean, it's the sort of the test of just having a studio led itself to that kind of situation where now we're getting projects from, we were already getting projects from all over across the United States, but really it was like everything's up for grabs. And so it kind of created, in a sense, more opportunity for everybody, and geography wasn't an issue. Before it was like, you must be in LA, this is recording in Los Angeles, and that sort of, with the pandemic, went away. So on one end, you see a lot more opportunity, you see people home, and that was a really great thing. But what also happened is it literally kicked everything into overdrive. And so again, kind of going back to time is our enemy, that's where it just got like, the sort of same day sort of situation where we get projects from producers, from the advertising agencies in the morning, and they are expecting auditions back at the end of their day, which is sometimes, if they're on the East Coast, that's like 3 p.m. So that is what kind of, it's created sort of like this atmosphere of, more opportunity, but less time to do it. And I want to talk about one other thing that kind of came up out of all this too, which is, traditionally voiceover agencies had booths in their offices. So, prior to the pandemic, we would have a lobby full of talent, coming in, recording. I would step into the booth, and direct people if I found it necessary. There was a booth director, and many voiceover talent agencies had similar situations, had similar setups, but obviously that couldn't happen anymore. And so, there was this shift of, now the talent needs to really be able to self-direct. It's a huge word. It's turning to these words like a buzzword almost, like self-direct, like, learn to self-direct, art of self-direct, blah, blah, blah. But really it's that you have to be able to listen to your auditions and be able to discern which of the takes that you did are the top ones, because again, time is our enemy. And a lot of times there just isn't enough time in the day to listen to auditions and give feedback, and there just isn't. So self-direction is a huge part of of what's become sort of the norm of the pandemic. That, and obviously paperwork. The paperwork used to be signed at the attic, with you at the studio, and now it's coming to us at the talent agency. So we're having to bolster our, that side of thing, and making sure that the contracts are correct, making sure that you're signing what is appropriate and what you did in the session. So those are sort of the major takeaways. It's just things got faster, more opportunity, yes, because the lines got erased, but at the same time, you have less time to do them.
Yeah, it is definitely. I was just sitting down with you, and I was like, "Oh, there's a last minute. Well, I guess I'm going to miss that one." Yeah, they do come consistently, which is great. I mean, it's great to know that the opportunities are out there, but it really is about finding not the equipment, the time, and the bandwidth to be able to seize them and to be able to deliver a good product quickly. Awesome. When it comes to your clients, what would you say is one of the top things that you expect from them in your professional relationship? And conversely, what would you say is the top thing that they should expect from you as their agent?
Love that question. So for me, communication is critical. Like, you need to be able to, we need to be able to have a dialogue. We need to be able to communicate. And what that means is, I always say, if you feel like you're over communicating, you're probably communicating just right. Because we want to know when you're traveling to Italy for 2 weeks and not available for auditions. We want to know if you are doing the UCB, main stage, and you're doing a show. And, we want to go to those things. We want to be dialed into your career. We want to know if you're unable to turn in an audition because, for example, it's oil company, and you feel strongly about certain oil companies, and you're passing. Same thing with meat products and so on and so forth. Like, you need to be able to have that open dialogue and be able to communicate with your agent and tell them and educate them on sort of how you want to be represented. And so communication, I will say, is very important. If I'm calling you or texting you or emailing you, there are different sort of levels of, the way I function as an agent, there's different levels of urgency. It's sort of like, if I'm emailing you, unless it says urgent in the subject line, that's not a, immediate response kind of thing. Yes, I love it when you respond very quickly, but, that doesn't always happen. And then if I'm texting and calling you like every hour or every 30 minutes because there's an emergency session and then, something needs to happen right away, that's a whole different thing. And unless you're, again, in session, or you had said, oh, I'm going to be, I'm working theatrically. I'm working, on XYZ show. I expect, a reasonable, communication. If it's urgent, you should be getting back to me. So communication is very, very important. And when, and to flip that, I would, of the clients that we represent, I think it's important that they know that I'm their ally, that I'm here for them, that I'm here to help them and achieve their goals. And I would hope that they expect to know that I am here to help, here to help them achieve their goals. They're the captain of the ship. And it's important that you navigate, these very tumultuous seas of voiceover. But I'm here to help you. And I would hope that the talent knows, or that people know, that they can come to us and, we don't, I mean, I'm not, I wish I had all the answers, and I wish I could book you on all these jobs. I mean, it would make my heart sing, but unfortunately, I don't have all the answers. If I had that crystal ball, man, I'd be like the richest talent agent in the whole wide world. But unfortunately, I don't have that crystal ball. So I expect that clients that, again, I guess it also folds into communication, but the biggest thing is that, they have an ally in me, and then I'm here to help them achieve what they want in their goals in voiceover.
Awesome. And that has been very clear in our relationship. So I appreciate you saying that. Since this is QueerVox, and we do have a lot of people out there who identify on, somewhere in the gender spectrum. And there is that difficulty sometimes in finding representation that gets them. What would you say is, if you are bringing on queer talent, especially trans or non-binary talent, what would you say is the conversation that you want to have with them about bringing them on board, or how your relationship would be with them in terms of representing their gender identity appropriately?
That is also such a good question, and I hope everyone writes this down. Educate your agent. Educate, educate, educate. I think the industry as a whole is on a journey right now of authenticity. We're all trying to really get to a place of authenticity. And no, I don't think that anybody has like all the right answers, or that there is exact answers in all of this, because it is a evolving kind of thing. And especially in commercial world, where advertising is typically like sort of like a mirror that's a reflection of what's going on in the world. And there's a lot of fads that go on, or tokenisms, and and we're really just trying to get to that area of where it's just belonging, and it's not, it's really important that people feel that they are part of the community and not just like checking off a box. And in doing so, it's important that you educate we're in this sort of flux zone right now. So you need to educate your agent and tell them how you want to be represented. Because in my world, I want to give as many opportunity as much as possible to as many people as possible, so they can, again, so going back to fulfill your dreams and goals in your career. So it's really important that if you identify as non-binary, that you do educate your agent and go, hey, I can read for male gender roles and female gender roles, because my sound, and everyone's different. This isn't I should also say that it doesn't apply, not every situation applies to every person. So, if someone has a voice that is, male, or, male sounding or female sounding, educate your agent, say, I want to be represented in this area and this area. We get so much of that sort of like situation where they're like, where we're just sort of like, it's almost, people are too like afraid to ask the question, or that it's like we're being, nobody wants to feel that they're being disrespectful, especially as agents. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to represent our talent to the best of our abilities, but we genuinely do need to have more of those conversations to be like, okay, so I am, I do identify as non-binary, but I do want to read for, for little boy voices. I can read for female, 20s to 30s voices, like whatever that means to you, whatever your voice talents lean, that's really what it distills to. It's really like you and how you want to be represented with your agent. And so it's going to be different for everyone. Everyone's going to have a different conversation with their teams, but the conversation just needs to happen. Otherwise, it's sort of like this sort of pregnant's a bad word, but kind of like elephant in the room where it's just sort of like, so like, are they going to be offended if we send this, or like this and that? I really just feel like it's so important that the conversations are had, and that you're represented to the true extent of your talent, not to the limit of whatever sociological norms have been established in terms of gender identity. So just really, if you have an agent, you need to be your own advocate, especially in just this period of time that the industry's still kind of evolving. It hasn't really, I still think we have work to do.
For sure. But you bring up a great point. And I mean, it is something that we talk a lot about at QueerVox, is the idea of building out your sandbox, and that walking into a room to either meet with an agent or a casting and having the clarity of like, okay, this is how I identify personally. However, the roles that I choose to play are these, like within this sandbox. And these are the roles that I do not want to read on, and being able to establish those boundaries from the get-go really make everybody's job easy. Like it establishes a line of communication. Is like, okay, then I know how we proceed from here. And of course, there may be things within that sandbox, like there's the center square that's like, this is your money sound. This is the thing that you will book on. And there might be those outer rim things that are like a little less, it might not be the most marketable sound, but you feel comfortable in it. It makes you excited when you get to read on it. So it might be the thing that you get occasionally. But knowing what all of that is really just makes everybody's job easier. And also, there's also, on the flip side, the element of talking about, with all actors, when you get an audition, asking yourself, is this my story to tell? And, we know, because we've talked about this for a bunch of different stuff, there's nothing wrong with passing on something that does not speak to your identity. And you're actually saving the employer, the casting, like all sorts of stuff, and all the headaches if they cast you and then they're like, oh, you're not authentically that. I mean, we have an actor who somehow managed to get cast in a Spanish language speaking commercial, and they don't speak Spanish. It's like, how did this happen? Yeah. And so it's being able to read something and say, you know what, this isn't me. And, there's a difference between like, oh, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I have the confidence, versus, oh, I'm just not that, and I shouldn't be playing that. Because while we do want to offer queer talent the ability to read on as much of the gender diversity as they feel they have access to, we're also an underserved population, and so reading cis or straight roles is not stealing from anybody. It's, in many cases, a lot of us have been playing straight and cis for most of our lives. So, it's not that we're playing something that we don't intrinsically understand, but it is when our straight and cis colleagues take those trans, non-binary, queer roles just because they want to stretch their acting muscles, that's when we start to get into that weird zone of like, okay, we're trying, and it's not the argument of talent. It's not like you can or you can't, you have the ability or you don't. It's the argument of like, this is a business. And our job at QueerVox is to make sure that we're uplifting and trying to create career paths for this underserved community. And if we're not allowed to play, we're generally not allowed to play cis or straight roles for our trans and non-binary members. If we're not allowed to play ourselves, then, well, how are we supposed to make a career? So that's my soapbox on that.
Well said. Yeah.
But yeah, and I appreciate that conversation. I did see, and just because we're at this, we're in this subject matter, I did see one of the questions that came up. Somebody said, I just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. Felix says, I've been researching agency websites and noticed many of them separate their actor listings by the binary genders. As a non-binary person, this is concerning as I don't know if they would be affirming companies to work with. So do you have advice for non-binary people navigating agencies? Now, I know SBV currently separates things male and female, correct?
I believe that is, yeah, that's on our, I mean, yes, that is on the website, but that is probably needs to be redone. To be honest.
There we go. Cool. We're making progress already. So, yeah, and because I do, as you're saying, this is an industry that's in flux and is slowly changing, and it's as these things come to light, and as more major agencies are represent more queer people, it's when we see these things that are like, oh, okay, that's an issue that we need to look at. But I will say, Felix, that I think SBV would represent you fine. Cool. So moving on from there, what would you say are the habits of successful commercial voiceover actors? What are the things that they do daily or monthly or annually that really make them feel like that's somebody that's on their game and they book frequently?
So it's part of it is definitely having the right mindset. You know, you want to come from a place of removing as many obstacles as you can, allowing yourself to be able to be in the right place at the right time to book the job. Because as the saying goes, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? I mean, it's very cliche, but it is true. And, you know, you need to have sort of the mindset that, you know, every audition you do, you know, voiceover, you know, commercials tends to be a volume business. It's not a surprise to anybody. So, you know, you definitely want to be reading, you know, as many pieces of copy or as much as you feel that, you know, is appropriate as in your wheelhouse. And you want to make sure that, like, you know, that you have the home studio set up at home. You want, you know, all the things. It's really just even the most minor, you know, making sure that you're taking care of your instrument, you know, making sure that it's ready to go. That, like, I could call JP tomorrow and be like, hey, you booked this job, blah, blah, blah. But if JP was, you know, decided to go crazy with a bottle of tequila or something like that, and lost his voice last night, like, you know, why, you know, or
don't judge me.
yeah. And then, you know, like, you know, when you're on a flight, you know, it's getting the Wi-Fi on the flight so that, you know, if your agent's trying to email you with like, hey, you know, this booking's coming in, can we confirm you, blah, 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 you're able to respond in flight. You know, it's all those little things that it's having that mindset of just being open to the process and to having the ability to make a session work. You know, it's, you know, if you have, like, example, flights are a big thing. So, you know, if you're thinking about booking that flight to Thailand, or sorry, if you're looking, you know, to New York, and, you know, you have the option of taking the red eye, which sucks, I know, or the flight during the day, take the red eye, you know, if you can, because what if, you know, again, you can't move everything, your whole life around this business, but you want to just open up as many avenues as you can to facilitate that booking, to make it happen. You know, don't put more obstacles in your way. Don't kind of overcomplicate it. What's another good example? I'm trying to think of just different, you know, taking care of the instrument. Like, again, for the auditioning process, auditioning is part of this career. I mean, it's a huge part of this career. It's never going to go away. You have to audition. The offer only stuff is reserved really for like the upper echelon celebrity talent. and and industry industry veterans that have been doing this when we were watching cartoons coming home from school. So auditioning is a huge part of the process. So if you know that your agent sends you auditions between the hours of 9 and 10 and 4 and 5, make sure that you kind of keep those hours open so that you can you have the ability to welcome in those opportunities and then act on them. Don't go to Orange Theory at 9 o'clock. Don't do like a 4-hour hair appointment at 9 o'clock. Really just take those little things into consideration and just try to keep as many avenues as you can open to making a booking happen. That's really, really important. And then the other thing I will say is that it's show business. It's a business. You have to treat it that way, which means make sure you're up to speed with all of your tax information. If you have a green card or your ability to work, you want to make sure that you don't get to that process like, okay, great, they're going to book it. Oh, their visa's expired, or oh, that paperwork's missing, or they don't have that, they can't work. And what a bummer, right? What a bummer to have audition it, work, book the job, and then now it's coming down to like some tax document that your accountant forgot to file, or or something like that. So again, just it's a business, so you got to make sure that you line up and treat it as such, and make sure that you're taking advantage of those things. I also say, right now, you guys are all doing this. You guys are all investing in your career by being in this workshop right now and be members of QueerVox and learning and absorbing as much information as you can, about this industry. That's also a huge part of this. Is keeping up with all the trends and making sure that your reads are contemporary and with what the current what's out there in the current marketplace.
That's all good stuff. I feel like you read me to filth with that 9 a.m. 4-hour hair appointment. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that I get in some of the questions that everybody's been asking. We have a bunch. Let's get into submission materials and pitching. What is the best way to get an agent's attention, and also not only communication methods, but also the materials that they should have available?
That again is such a good question. Oh my God, Barbara Walters. Okay, so it really, again, it's not going to be a cookie cutter answer for everybody. If you are wanting to pursue an animation career, animation voiceover, you will need to have an animation voiceover demo. You will need to have probably taken some improv classes and studied with animation casting directors, with you have to be a part of that animation scene. You're mixing, you're mingling with obviously, as things open up more and more, if your interest is promo trailer, if you are like, I want to be the next voice of the ABC network and tonight on ABC, whatever, all that good stuff, you need to have a promo demo. You need to be working towards that area. And then, of course, commercial tends to kind of be a little bit different. I mean, obviously, having a commercial voiceover reel is fantastic. It's sort of like, your basic like headshot for the voiceover industry, because it tends to be the most common demo made. And it kind of can showcase like different elements. Like you kind of can put in a little animation, can put a little promo within the context of commercial. But I mean, basically what it boils down to, for whatever avenue of this specific voiceover industry that you're after, you need to be able to provide the goods. You need to bring bring it with your demos and with your website, and something for, you know, an agent to be able to listen to and consider you. That again is it's not an answer for every single person. There are people that we represent that don't have a demo, don't have any of those demos, and many celebrities don't have any of these things. So, and that kind of boils down to like natural character voices. Like if they're a Seth Rogen, for example, you know, Seth it's like it's a talking cartoon almost. Like, so, you know, that's sort of like the exception to the rule, really. But for the most part, you need to have the goods for whatever sort of facet of this industry you're interested in pursuing. So the best way, I think, to get my ear is a referral. And so that's where community comes into place. And frequently, a casting director is one of the best ways. You know, if you have been in the room or been in the room with a casting director, and they've been like, wow, where have you been? Or what am I heard? You know, that's the perfect juncture to be like, I would love to do more of this. Would you mind, you know, recommending me to any agents? Or, you know, if a cast director is calling me about somebody or emailing me about somebody, I'm like right there, I'm listening, because they're involved. They have their ear to the industry. They know what's up. And so, and I trust their taste. I trust them, you know, and so that sort of bumps it up to the front. Then there's also, you know, your fellow voice actors, and that's another avenue in. You know, the cold email submission, I wish I could say that I pay attention to, but it's too much. There's just too many that come in. It's kind of like an avalanche sometimes. And then on top of it, like the other day I got one where it was just like to almost every agent in town, you know, and not like BCC'd or even CC, you know, it was like, oh, wow, I feel so special. Like, you know, like, oh, me, you know, it's like, it was everybody. Or there was one that said the subject was like agent email template. And I was like, cool, really, really ingenious, really creative, you know, and that's just a turnoff for me. So that's me specifically. So referrals are a great way to get, you know, my ear, and know that, you know, talent agents and casting directors are all, you know, again, going back to time is the enemy. You know, we're busy. And so sometimes we're not able to get to it right away. And sort of like, if you're harping on it, you know, maybe not, you know, that putting that pressure, because then that's also kind of like a turn off there. So just, you know, a follow-up, I would say, is plenty. Like one follow-up, you know, any more than that, I think you're just kind of bombarding, you know, it's kind of like turning to spam. It's just information overload. So just know that there's just only a certain amount of time in the day, and your agent's spinning many, 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 many different plates. Agents are spinning many, many different plates. So we aren't always able to get to it right away, you know?
For sure. And I think it's also fair to say, like, you know, and this is, I don't say this facetiously, SBV is one of the top agencies in town. And, you know, for some people, I'm not turning off newcomers from submitting to SBV, but there are going to be some people that will start at a more boutique-y, smaller agency first and move up the ladder gradually. I mean, you know, I started at a smaller agency first. And then, of course, there will be some people that, you know, have that Seth Rogen-y thing going on where they will be an attractive commodity to the top, you know, from the get-go. So it, you know, much like going to college, some people start at a community college and some people can, you know, go right to Harvard. Like, you know, it varies for everybody.
Great. Actually, that's a great point to bring up too, because, you know, fortunate that SBV has such an amazing legacy in voiceover. Rita Vennari, who's the V in SBV, she's the president. She is in here like every day. She did not miss a beat, and she was the head of the voiceover department back in when the agency was established in 1977, and has led the charge ever since. And so and having worked at other agencies, I know that it's not everyone's, it's kind of like a Goldilocks kind of situation. It's trying out what sort of works for you at that juncture in your career. Because sometimes when you're at a big agency or a well-established agency, you may not be, it may not be your most beneficial move. You may need to start a smaller agency and then grow, and develop that way. So it really is kind of a Goldilocks kind of thing. You have to be able to feel it out and make sure that it's the right fit for you.
For sure. Absolutely. Along the way, you talked a little bit about networking, especially as things open back up. And the one thing that came out of the pandemic is there are a lot of people who are doing this biz from all parts of the country and even in other countries. Would you say that, especially as we're moving forward, is there anything that prevents you from considering talent from out of state or even out of the country?
No, we have talent that's on other continents, and it's not an issue. I mean, because kind of going back to what we said about, opening yourself up to the opportunities and keeping the avenues open. The talent that are in other continents, whenever we're working on, because time zones, end up being actually quite a pain in the what. And so it's like, okay, so they're there, and then what time is that? And then, okay, so it's 6 o'clock there, so that means it's, okay, so wait, so if they can do a session, things like this, working in the time zone that we're in, and just, I'm available 9 to 12 and 2 to 6, PST, and not, I'm available 11 a.m., Cape Canaveral time, and then, 2 o'clock, whatever time. Like, just, again, making it easy for everyone to want to book you. That's really what I go back to. So, and then, of course, there's all the, sort of tax paperworks that gets involved. Like, you have to have all of that already going. You have to have the right to work, in the United States. Like, that should already be squared away. You have to, your immigration attorney or whoever it is that's helping sort of that area, the business side of this industry, making sure that that's all lined up, that you're able to have all that paperwork, that we need in order for the companies to pay you, so that, you can make some money, because that's cool.
Yeah, the basics. Awesome. I just wanted to grab two other people's questions to go back to demos just really quick. Do you recommend? How often do you recommend people refresh their demos?
Ooh, well, if your demos like now get a new car with power door locks and windows, probably time to replace the demo. I mean, I would say the cycles, it's probably, if you have a very well-made demo with real spots that are on there, and not saying that all real spots always make for good demos, but they tend to, that could last you a good solid, 3 to 5 years before you have to refresh it. Then again, it depends on, what the goal is and where your voice stands. Like, if the spots have to sound, to me, contemporary, which means of when I'm watching TV these days, they need to sound like they're part of this ecosystem that we're listening to currently. I'm not a fan of, to go back, to kind of talk about demos. Don't put a highly recognizable campaign on your demo. For example,
that you didn't do. That you didn't do.
Right. That you didn't. Yeah, exactly. So, like, for example, that's like, lease a new, a Mercedes-Benz SL 500. I know that John Hamm is the voice of Mercedes-Benz, and he has been for a very long time. You did not do that spot. I know that John Hamm did that spot. And so then now my brain kind of goes to this whole thing of like, okay, so what other spots on this demo aren't real? And so is this person actually booking, or is this just like a fake demo? And, and then I go down this like rabbit hole of just like, that was, disappointing to me because, because you just don't want to do highly recognizable, campaigns like that. It's that you did not do, and that you're easily identifiable. So that's the other thing I have to say about demos, in the grand scheme of things. But if you have, some demos stay content, like if it's a well-made demo, they can last a pretty long time. I mean, they tend to hold up. But, if you have products on there, like, get a new Nokia 3360 at your Singular Wireless store. I'm like, so Singular Wireless doesn't exist anymore. So you probably need to update your demo.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking back. I'm like, what is on my demo? Oh, I have a Sprint ad. I need to get rid of that. It's T-Mobile.
There you go.
There it is. For people that are getting, a lot of QueerVox members are coming from dubbing, audiobooks, animation in some cases, or indie games. And are looking to broaden the mediums that they work in. What would you say are some of the pitfalls that people from, especially like animation and video games or dubbing, make when they're trying to get into commercial?
So with commercial, the shift has really been authenticity. You'll hear that so many times. You'll probably read on the specs, like, they always say conversational non-announcer, blah, 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 blah. Like, what does that even mean? Conversational non-announcer. So what you're kind of working up against is that the specs are frequently written by people at the advertising agencies that, bless their hearts, they're trying their best, but they do not know how to communicate with actors. And so oftentimes when I do read specs on a copy and I'm like, what are they even trying to say, or what are they looking for? I'm like, it doesn't even make sense, So I try very hard to get as much information as possible from them and ask questions so that I could then refer that info to our talent so that they know what they're looking for. That includes, getting specific about prototypes or different things like that. But know that, when you see the specs on a commercial copy, there is a little bit of an element of a guessing game because it's often very convoluted and it does not make sense. And so you kind of have to take a step back if that happens and look at the product, research the product, look at previous work, go on YouTube. I mean, obviously make sure you're pronouncing the product correctly because that happens a lot more than you think. But, Domino's, it's Domino's. Hyundai? No, it's Hyundai, rhymes with Sunday, so making sure, looking back at past campaigns, kind of getting a feel for what has been the past, and then kind of looking at what the copy is aiming to achieve, I guess, what they're trying to get, what message they're trying to get across with this advertisement. And in that process, know that, especially when you're coming from an anime world or from an animation world, that you're not trying to play an announcer. You're not trying to do anything like, put on an announcer. You are trying to sell this product. That's what you're trying to do in the most slick way possible. And slick meaning not in terms of like, now lease a Toyota, blah, 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 for the, not in the sense of how you're actually doing the copy. It's that you're trying to make this sell, but trying to make it sound like you're not selling anything at all. It's really a fine art. It's its own sort of character. You got to kind of see it in that sense. You're not putting on a voice. You're not, it is really your voice. You are, there are certain pieces of copy, especially like quick service restaurant copy that, now, McDonald's McCafe is $3.99 every Monday at your McDonald's. There's a certain way that you have to hit certain points in the copy, and that's for like retail copy, and that's its own segment of this industry of commercials. People that do like tag announcers and things like that. There's a certain way that you have to hit certain emphasis in the copy, but when you're doing kind of like this conversational, what they call conversational commercial reads, you're really trying to sell without selling anything. And that is the biggest takeaway, I think. I would say it's like, don't put, don't do your Don LaFontaine voice. Don't put something on. Be authentic, be yourself, and work within the parameters of that copy, and kind of infuse what your acting skills, what you bring to the table with the copy that's presented to you in the most authentic way possible, not putting something on.
Sorry, muted. Yes, absolutely. And just a quick follow-up on that, because I did want to ask somebody else's question. If you are somebody that already has an animation demo and you want to be attractive to an agency, should you also have a commercial demo?
I'd say yes, because here's why. So many things happen where there's not even time in the day for you to even read. And so at that point, we're sending your commercial demo. Like that's what's going to the buyer. So your commercial demo is acting like kind of your audition. So if you want to be a player, if you want to be like in this, if you want to be on the saddle, you need to have these materials. Your agent needs to be able to have these materials in order to pitch you properly, in order to be able to do their job so that they can procure this work for you. So the more you can give them, the more arsenal in their, the more tools they have in their arsenal to be able to advocate for you on your behalf, the better it all is.
Awesome. We had a couple questions about training, and these are different from what I usually see. Not where should you train, but are there elements that you pay attention to on potential clients' resumes other than training? Like somebody said, jobs following college that you went to, maybe skills or experience, some other stuff.
I mean, when I look at a resume, I look for theatrical credits, honestly. Like I look for, to see what they've done in the TV and film world. That's an important consideration for me, because then it helps us sell you to prospective buyers or anything like that, to have that sort of those theatrical credits, which I know is such a catch-22, because it's like, well, how do I get credits without getting an agent? And so we're like sort of like chicken before the egg kind of situation. So there is that element. However, in the world that we live in now, where we have an iPhone and we have the ability to create content, having social media and having funny videos, producing your own content. I'll tell you a quick story about how somebody was able to take something they did on a social media platform, got the attention of a pretty major media enterprise, and they were able to get a deal, a commercial voiceover deal off of that sort of work that they did on a social media platform. I'm not going to get into specifics because I signed all this crazy stuff, but being your own content producer and making viral videos. I mean, I know it's so hard to really predict what goes viral and what doesn't. And, you know, that's a whole other algorithm and probably a whole nother conversation. But, you know, we're in this area now, we're in this world now where you can produce your own stuff. Like you can. I mean, look what happened to Vox Machina and, you know, and that whole entity with, I mean, it's the highest growth, you know, they made the most, it's, oh my God, what's the platform called? I can't
Kickstarter.
remember.
They were the highest Kickstarter for a web series. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's like on Amazon Prime. Like how amazing is that? I mean, that's so cool. So being able to also produce your own content, I mean, your resume in a sense does help. And, you know, when I'm looking, you know, training is where I do look, you know, and, you know, I guess having special skills, like if you could do accents and stuff like that, but I need to hear it. I mean, to be able to, because, you know, some people say I have a great British accent, and then I hear it and I'm like, from who said that? You know, what? You know, so that's pretty much my gauge on that.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody asked, this is from Christy. I remember a few years back seeing John Krasinski and Scarlett Johansson as prototypes at the time. Do you think there's been a shift in the commercial world as for what types of voice prints they are looking for? Yeah, I still see a ton of John Krasinski, but I don't know about Scarlett. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still think they're still very popular. But I mean, if you talk to people back in the day, they would have said like Demi Moore, like that was a huge one back in the day, like Demi Moore, and that's like I don't see, you know, it's sort of a reflection of what is going on in the industry. So right now, I think we see a lot more Regina King, which is fabulous and amazing. We see a lot more. Oh my gosh, I should have these.
I know. I always see Tom Holland and Donald Glover. Those are the ones I see all the time.
For Donald, I was thinking like the whole cast of Atlanta is up there. Keke Palmer, Tiffany Haddish, all those ladies are very popular prototypes, which is so awesome because for so long it was always John Krasinski. You know, if you went on a lot of agency website rosters, you would see like the male identifying 30 to 40s category being like vroom, 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 like just that's sort of where the industry was. And I guess it still probably is still in that, but there's a lot more opportunity for BIPOC, which has just been so cool. I mean, you know, you see the Gina Rodriguez every now and then, you know, those come up too. So it's just, it's opened up for BIPOC, which I'm all for. So bring it.
And it should be mentioned for those people that see those and they're like, do I need to do a sound-alike? It's not a sound-alike. It's the essence of, it's the sort of general feel of, not a sound-alike. Because if they wanted John Krasinski for the car commercial, they'd hire him.
Again, the popular one. Paul Rudd is still very popular. Paul Rudd he's up there.
Because he doesn't get old.
Does it? What's his secret? Someone tell me.
It's the tears of children.
You do know that? Please put an answer in this chat right here because I would love to know.
Actually, since you mentioned Tiffany Haddish, because we invited our friends from the PGM VO list and also Voices of Color. Hi to all of you that showed up from there. And the conversation that has come up a lot is, you know, seeing the Tiffany Haddish voice type a lot. And for people, let's say specifically for Black women who did not grow up in a place or didn't grow up having African American vernacular English or the urban sound at their disposal, do you feel that they should figure out how to put it on, or that it's just like, if it says Tiffany Haddish, just go for high energy and like, you know, joyfulness, as opposed to like trying to put on that dialect? You know what I mean?
Yes, it makes me cringe because, again, I don't think anyone should be putting anything on. I mean, you know, we represent people, BIPOC people that don't sound anything like that at all. Don't sound like Tiffany Haddish remotely. And they're comfortable. We've had the conversations. Again, this kind of circles back to like setting up the boundaries and having those conversations with your agent and educating your agent on how you want to be represented, because some people are totally comfortable acting in and doing that. Other people are just it's not, it's a pass. It's not, it's not something that they do, and it's not something that they want to do, and they don't book it, and that's totally fine. That's totally okay. It's not, there's no exact science here to all of this, because it is an art form. And so we try to put a business thing to an art form, and it just doesn't work. But I would say, again, that's a conversation that's individual to every talent and every agent on how you want to be represented. If you are comfortable, because there are specific departments at advertising agencies that are set up to advertise at certain consumer markets. Like, for example, if you see a script out there and you see a bunch of letters on the top, and those letters say AACM, that stands for African American Consumer Market. So that, in likelihood, means that spot is going to run exclusively in the African American consumer market. And so you know what they're looking for. And if you're totally cool with like, yes, I want to work in that space, I want to lend my voice to those opportunities, go for it. Absolutely. Have that conversation with your agent. Make sure that they know. If you're not, that's totally okay. If your agent's not open to that,
Yeah. And I think it should be said, like, yes, there is a broader conversation at stake about, like, the pigeonholing of what that AACM means, and and how certain communities are marketed to with certain sounds. We were talking about like Pride Month earlier, and like the certain sounds that come with Pride Month, and and how it feels like in some senses, and I'm not talking broadly about the whole industry, but certain agencies, certain advertising agencies that put out these ads are patronizing their audience, and which is a broader conversation about how we do that. But that's not what the conversation with your agent. The conversation is, do you feel right now? Do you feel comfortable doing that kind of work or not? And also making it your. I mean, like, for instance, this is an animation thing, but I got an animation audition that had the word sassy in it, and sassy can be a real buzzword for me about, like, oh, they want sassy, they want snappy, they want the pink face all over the place. And then, but then I read it and I really went through it, and I'm like, okay, I could give them that. There's nothing saying I couldn't. But I also see another way into this that is equally valid. And they might hear, and first of all, I'm assuming what they want. Assuming what you think the buyer wants immediately is your death knell. But secondly, even if that is what they want, I can provide them with a very conceivable other take. So I think commercially, it's also about, like, even if you're reading it, it's like, well, I don't do particularly that, but I see another way into this spot that could be equally attractive to this market.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where the creativity sparks, and that's when you get like an awesome, like, if you think about it, the buyers on, these commercial buyers are listening to, if not, hundreds, probably maybe even thousands of these reads, that come in. And it's important that the audition pops, that it stands out from that sort of minutia of what people are going to predictably do, and then giving them something special and something unique and something creative. And that's the exciting part of this job, is hearing the creativity. I mean, there is nothing more rewarding as an agent than seeing one of our talents or one of our actors, like, do their thing in their element. It gives me chills, like even talking about it, because it's just such a exciting, and it's just like you were made for this, and you just feel just there's just like this incredible power that comes to it when the right actor books the right job, and you get to watch them and do their thing, and you get to hear it. It's magic. It's just so incredible. So that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. Cool. Just two last questions, and thank you, Ferenc, for staying a little late with us. As far as places to meet representation, do you recommend, and also do you personally do them, workshops and like voiceover conferences?
Okay. Well, workshops for sure. I mean, you constantly need to be working on your craft. There is no days off. I mean, there are, obviously. But you do want to be developing your craft. You want to be continuing to study the trends. It's like working out. Like you're working out to get that hot summer bod. You want to work out your voiceover acting skills. It's a totally different skill set than on-camera acting. So you want to make sure that you are studying up on the trends, that you are in there. And the best way to do that is to it's what you guys are doing right now is like awesome. So being here right now, you guys are doing it. But taking workshops with those that are actively casting or producing or, have a helping hand in the process, that are, that have sort of a heartbeat on what's going on. Those are the people you want to gravitate towards the most. That's not to say there's so many wonderful people in this industry that have helped careers, and power to them. If you are able to, connect with somebody on that level, and you feel the growth, and it's action, and you feel that it's a good fit, great. That's super cool. But definitely you want to get in front of those that are actively casting. That's a for sure. The voiceover conferences are a great way to meet your network, to meet other fellows, and to really kind of, you never know who you're going to meet. You have to definitely put yourself out there, and get to know get to know the industry, and what are, because there's, where I work in, which is mostly the SAG opportunities, and, there's a whole other world out there of voiceover that is, audiobooks. There's, a whole other kind of different avenues and things that are available to pursue. E-learning, that's a huge area of voiceover as well. So, it just kind of depends on your goals and, what you want to do. Like going down to Comic-Con is, I love going to Comic-Con because it's always fun, but it's an awesome place to network and meet with fellow voice actors and producers and casting people and stuff like that too. So, it just depends on, I guess, which conference and, and what the event is and what your goals are and what your end game is.
Yeah. Awesome. Ferenc, before I let you go, first of all, is there any last little tidbit that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with the gang?
Yes. Don't feel discouraged. Don't give up. I know it's hard. It's so hard. It's a tough business, voiceover specifically, because again, there's no feedback. There's just no time. The feedback is sort of, the proof is in the pudding. The feedback is, you get an avail check even if you don't book the job. An avail check means you're on the right path. It's if your agent, like I do this a lot, I will email if I'm listening to auditions when there's time in the day, because time was, I will, your audition, great job, I loved it, or something like that, or any sort of encouragement, take that as a win, because it's a tough business. It's really, really hard, especially now that, you know, everyone's just at home. We're shut in a little bit with just, you know, there used to be a lot more mingling at the studios and at the lobbies here at the talent agencies and things like that. That is missing. And so it's just critical to make sure that, you know, that you are just keeping a healthy mindset about this industry. It is tough. It's hard. And know that it's going to be an uphill battle, but you can do it. You can do it. You need to put in the hard work, because that's also required of you. It is tough work, but you have to be consistent. And you have to keep going at it and keep studying and keep on top of your craft and keep on top of the trends. And if the stars align, you know, good things can happen, you know, because literally so many things have to happen for you to book a job. It's like, you know, the talent agency has to get the copy. You have to read on it. Your MP3 has to be sent. Then somebody has to listen to it. Then it gets bumped up to the creatives. The creatives have to listen to it. They okay it. Then it goes up to the next echelon of producers. Then it goes to the CMO of whatever corporation it is. You know, Target, Arrowhead Water, whatever. They listen to it. Then they have to present that to the whole rest of the team. And then they have to, you know, they're at that point, they're presenting like maybe 3 to 5 different voices. And someone could be like, oh, that sounds like my crazy aunt who I just like, every time she's at Thanksgiving dinner, she's always spewing some crazy nonsense. And I don't like that voice. And that's literally what it can come down to, you know, and, you know, it's mind boggling. So again, you could be the second runner up on 10 different jobs and never even know about it. So I would say, don't feel discouraged. Keep working on your craft, keep honing it in, and just keep going.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, the idea of being open to the work and creating circumstances in your life that allow you to have the openness to accepting the work and being ready for it. I mean, there's so many stars that have to align for that work to even come to you that if you're deflecting, then it's not going to happen. So yeah. It's all good stuff. Ferenc, you're the best. I'm so glad that we did this. This is just awesome. If people want to keep in touch with you or follow you, what you do, are you on the Twitter or the Instagrams or something?
I'm on both. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. It's Terrence with an F because it's Ferenc. But you know, I mean, I'm open to people emailing me if they have more questions. I'm totally open to that. And I will try to get back to you as soon as humanly possible. But please do, you know, I really want to just applaud everybody that's here right now, and because this is part of investing in your craft and investing in the future. And I really just want to thank the Help Network and QueerVox, because they are just an invaluable part of this industry. And so really, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. If you are new to the QueerVox community and you want to get on our Discord or our email list, be sure to go to queervox.org to sign up. And we also have an amazing casting directory that is available. So be sure to check that out as well. Ferenc, thanks again. Thank you to the Help Network, and we'll see you all again soon.